Welcome to Life Planning 101, brought to you by Kennedy Financial Services of Eastland. Tune in every Monday morning at 8:30 on KATX and again on Saturday morning at 9 on KATX and KWBY as Angela Robinson joins Terry Slavens to share important financial information to help you live life on purpose. Insurance, investments, estate and tax planning, and much more. All covered now on Life Planning 101.
And welcome into Life Planning 101 on KTX KWBY. Terry Slavens with you, and as always, joined by Angela Kennedy Robinson with another great topic.
Yes, we are. Well, I don't know if we should be excited to talk about this morning.
Well, it could be exciting.
It can be exciting, and it will be exciting. We're actually going to be talking about tax planning. And I know, summer tax planning, it's like putting, red wine with guacamole and chips. It just doesn't go together, right? But it should.
Especially if you filed an extension.
And not only that, but for this year, too. Yes. Because here we are. We got bad news up on Capitol Hill, so-called bad news, I guess, if depending on which side of the aisle you're on. Actually, I don't think it matters at this point, because if all of this is going to fall down on its own knees, something's got to be done and someone's got to fix it. So, in other words, Capitol Hill has bigger fish to fry at this point. So, the chances of us getting tax reform for 2017 are even getting more and more slim. We talked a couple months ago, we said, it's probably not going to happen until the first part of next year, middle of next year, and then they can revert it back for 18. But here we are in 17 again with this massive tax situation. And the truth is that if you wait, like most people, when they start thinking about taxes is when they start filing their taxes. And the reason why is because they start seeing those numbers, right?
And nobody likes to think about it.
And nobody likes to think about it, or they start looking at how much they paid in, or they start thinking about how much they have to pay in because they weren't good at paying in throughout the year, whatever the case is. But the problem is if you wait for that time, usually it's way too late. So we're going to I know it's South. We're in the South. We're, hot. We can say we're like Scarlett O'Hara and say, I can't think about that now. I'll think about it another day. Or we can say, I'm going to think about that now. And perhaps what if you could save half of the tax bill you owe for the rest of the year? Wouldn't that be great?
Be awesome.
It would be great, right? But you got to start. You got to start somewhere. So
I tell people around here, why put off to tomorrow what you can do today? Because tomorrow is not promised to you.
That's exactly right. And I forget whose quote that is, but I love that
It's
quote.
Not mine.
Yeah. Well, you do what we do. I always say we participate in the R&D department a lot, which is the rob and duplicate. So I love it, because really, there's a lot more wise people in the world than I am. So it might as well just be able to steal from other people a lot and be able to use their wisdom, right?
That's right.
But what I did primarily for today, because I think I'm going to have you do a little math in the second segment of the show. And so if you have the opportunity to sit with a pen and a piece of paper, or a pencil and a piece of paper, I encourage you to do that. If not, make sure you get online, re-access the show and these instructions, or we're going to have this written in our article for this week. So you can look at these there at Weekly Life Lessons. But I by chance this morning when I was looking over my material, I went through and I thought, I should gather up a few people that we just started working with and look at what their taxes were for 2016. Because in reality, if they've done nothing, their taxes are going to be the same for 2017. So I want to throw some numbers at you. I looked at 3 different people. I looked at an executive here in the state of Texas. Okay, he was making $270,000 a year. And when you added up all of his taxes, so this is his federal taxes, his Social Security, his Medicare taxes, and then his property taxes, it amounted to about $70,000.
Wow.
Okay, so take that number, $270,000 that he makes, divide it by 12. It took him over 3 months to pay his taxes this year. Ouch. Yes, right? Okay, so we think that one's bad, right? Okay, we're going to go up a scale. Now I'm going to give you somebody from out of state that has state income taxes. We're going to go to Arizona. So this couple, another executive, $370,000 a year of income, paid $116,000 in taxes last year.
A third of their income.
A third of their income. So it took them almost 4 months to pay their tax bill. Wow, right? Okay? And then let me give you the creme de la creme, because you know I'm going to end with a bang, right? Okay? So let's take a business owner. This is a true story. Makes my stomach sick. This is a business owner, and this isn't the first year or an anomaly year for this business owner. They've been making this kind of income and having this success for several years, going on 10 to 15 years now with this kind of success. They're taking home, so the business owner is taking home less than $150,000 a year. His wife is working, because she has to get that, at around $36,000 a year. So their total take home is about $186,000 a year. All right. You ready for this?
Ready.
So by the time they pay their taxes for their employees, the taxes for themselves, their state income taxes, and their property taxes and their federal taxes, $320,000 in taxes.
Wow.
They're paying, well, I guess it is almost double what they're taking home in income. In taxes. I mean, isn't that crazy? Good news is we fixed that problem. But it was a bad problem. But here's what's really happening out there. And I think people are just, the government, I will say this, they've done a good job of hiding all this, because you don't necessarily know where to go to look at how much tax you're actually paying. So when we come back in the next segment, I'm going to get you to get out that pen and piece of paper. I'm going to tell you where to go, so you have that number, because you need a motivator. It's the middle of the summer. You need a motivator. Don't put off what you can do today, right, Terry?
That's right. That's right.
So when we come back, you don't want to miss it.
Life planning continues right after this. And Life Planning 101 continues here on KATX KDY, talking tax planning today, and I hope you got your pencil and paper ready, because Angela has a little homework for you.
Yes,
today.
Homework, but it's good homework. It's homework we all need to know. You don't want to know, but you need to know, okay? So what we want to do is, I want you to remember the pain that you have when you pay your taxes, and I want you to devote 5 minutes to yourself right this very second, okay? So I'm going to give you some different places to go look, and this is what I want you to write down. I want you to pull out last year's tax return, okay? And on page 2, you're going to write down the amount of federal income tax you paid. That's going to be line 63, okay? So you're going to go on there. Then, next thing you're going to do is look at your W-2s from last year for you and your spouse both. And off of that, don't write down withholding. Only write down the Social Security tax you paid and the Medicare tax you paid, okay? Now, if you're self-employed, what you have to do that is to go back to the first page of your tax return. On the very first page, at line 27, it's going to say the self-employment taxes that are deductible, okay? Now, you have to times that by 2, because you only get to deduct half of that, okay? Right. So that's only half the number, okay? So times that by 2, and that's what that Social Security and Medicare tax is. A lot of business owners are under the impression, well, I don't pay that, I'm self-employed. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. You just don't know it because your CPA wraps it into your total tax bill. Okay, so, but it's there. Okay, so you got to add those two numbers. Then the third thing you're going to do is go to your itemized deductions. For most people, it's usually right behind your 1040 on page 1-2. It's number 3, okay? So you're going to look down. Lines 5 through 8 are other taxes that you've paid. And I'd like you to look at those lines individually. You can look at line 9, it adds them all up. But if you look at line 8, you're actually going to see where you're paying what. So property taxes, state income taxes. And if you're in the state of Texas, you pay sales taxes. That's an estimate just based on your amount of income that you have, and your CPA can kind of plug that in a little calculation. You could probably do yourself a better job of thinking of what you bought, major purchases last year. Right. For instance, if you went and bought a $50,000 vehicle, you paid $4,000 in taxes approximately, right?
Right.
Okay, so you can kind of add that up. Then you can add up your total taxes when you get through all those numbers. So many people forget that it's not just their federal income taxes. They've got all of these other taxes that are hitting them so hard. That business owner that I spoke about, he's in a state that his tax rate is over 50%. Over 50%. Wow. And that's not even his property taxes. That's just his state income tax, his federal income tax rate, and then he pays Obamacare tax on top of that for the current healthcare bill that's in place today. So, and like I mentioned before the break, the fact is that number's probably not going to change for 2017 unless something in your situation has changed, meaning your income's gone down or up. So really, you could take that number and divide it out by 12 And that's what you're paying every month in taxes. So going back to my question at the beginning of the show, if you could use this time, this next 5 months, to be able to do some planning, and it saves you 2.5 months of taxes, would it be worth it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, go back into those scenarios of that. Even that exec that was making $270,000 a year. That was our lowest tax liability that we talked about this morning, was $70,000. Even for them, that would be over $15,000 in savings. Wouldn't that be great? So, the big thing is to think about, if you wait, what is that going to do to you? And so many people wait till October or November and say, what can I do? Well, you're running
Not a lot right now.
Not a lot you can do right now. And this goes back to that business owner. So technically, we started talking to him last year. And by the time he got around to being able to start, okay, let's get busy with this. What can we do? One of the things that we said was, well, let's take advantage of your spouse's 401k. We're going to do some shifting here. Okay, she's employed, but let's take advantage of this, right? So we wanted to do that. But the problem was his spouse worked for a company that only had an open enrollment 2 times a year, and they missed that window. So she couldn't even contribute. Here we were in October. She couldn't even contribute to her 401k for the year, and it ended up costing them over $11,000 in taxes because she couldn't do it.
That's painful.
That is very painful, especially when you know now what you didn't know that you could have done, and you're sitting there thinking, dang, beating yourself in the head, right? So, but how many of us do that? We just wait, and then, this is about all you can do when it gets to be the end of the year. I can't tell you how many phone calls we get I don't know, December 27th, December 28th. What can we do for this year? Well,
go buy something.
Yeah, you know what? And I'm glad you brought that up, because that's the truth of the matter. And you call your CPA, what are they going to tell you? Go buy something. Go write something off, right? But, I have not seen, unless you can find me something, I would love for somebody to prove it up to me. Go ahead and email me, lifeplanning@kennedy-financial.com. I have not seen a purchase that appreciates in value when you write it off.
No, me neither.
No, I'm not seen it yet. So until I see it, I'm not a big believer in just going to spend money to reduce your taxes.
Right.
Okay, if you need something, that's different. But so many CPAs will go out there and say, well, go spend money. Well, yeah, and you know who's a victim of this more than anybody is farmers and ranchers. It breaks my heart, because here's people that in a good year, they need to be putting back money. They need to be saving money, because in a bad year, they may need to dip into that money, or, they may not be able to get subsidies, or we may be going through an economic recession and the government's not handing out good money for crop failures, or, there's lots of things that can happen. And, the fact is when their CPA says, well, go buy some more green paint, I'm sorry. When you can't afford green paint on a consistent basis, you don't need to buy green paint. You need to use the old paint you got, right? And so many times we fall victim to that because we think that's our only write-off. And in reality, you look up 10 years from now, which is worth more money. Now, and I say green paint, obviously it holds its value pretty well. But we're talking about John Deere. But, you look up and which one's worth more money, an investment or a piece of equipment that's depreciated in value, right?
And they depreciate. And, combines, $400,000 minimum.
Yes,
I mean,
exactly. It is crazy. It's crazy what's out there, but it's, there's always more to the story. And I think we forget that. And I watch too many business owners. I watch too many people, especially in our area with all this horses. I'm in the horse business. I know. I talk to a lot of team ropers, and their CPA said, go spend money. No, don't spend money. How, when you wake up in retirement one day, are you going to be worried about your money?
Absolutely.
You are. Don't spend it. Find a way to shelter it.
Rainy day fund.
That's exactly right. So when we come back, there's more to this story, believe it or not, and you're going to want to know.
All right, we'll be back with more right after this on KATX KWBY. Final segment of Life Planning 101 right here on KATX KWBY. I think this might be the best segment of the day.
Yes.
They've all been good.
So they've all been good. Well, we've been talking about tax planning. It's funny, we during the break, Terry, I'm very proud of your closet here. You've got it all cleaned out, and Blakeney did a great job. And she's saying, I really didn't want to do it, and it just, it's really hard. But then it feels good, right?
That's right.
And this is like tax planning. It's very ugly, but once you do it, you feel good, and you can move forward with confidence. confidence. And, that's really what leads us into this next story. So there really is, and we are a life planning firm. And obviously everybody knows this. We're Life Planning 101 that our listeners listen to. And the funny thing is most people come to us to do tax planning in the beginning because someone has told them about what we can do tax planning wise, right? And my guess is because that's an immediate gratification, kind of like cleaning out that closet. It feels really good, right? And not paying Uncle Sam. That's a big motivator behind it. But the interesting thing is that, tax planning can save you so much more than just money. It could actually save your family. And what I mean by this is we just got through putting together a plan. And I get excited. I'm like a little kid in a candy store when we can figure stuff out like this. But we had a business owner come to us, and he was loaded up with leverage. He's comfortable with it. He's a high risk taker, and that's how he's grown. And he's worth over $15 million. So he's done a very good job for himself. And he's in his 70s. And he's not ready to stop. And I don't think he's going to stop ever. And I think if he stopped, it would not be a good thing. However, question came up of what if something happens to you? Because almost everything he has is illiquid, pertinent to the lifestyle that they have. In other words, they do have some liquidity, but it's not enough to sustain the lifestyle that he's built for his wife and for his family if something were to happen to him. And he said his wife couldn't take over. She wouldn't know what to do. She wouldn't want to do it. And he didn't know how to do this, how to approach it. He doesn't have a successor. His type of business, it's not like he can bring in somebody to buy him out necessarily. He's just going to have to piece it off. But he's more worried about an emergency event. If he had a stroke, if he had a heart attack, what could he do, right? And here's a guy in his 70s. He's healthy, but he's in his 70s. So guess what? When you're talking planning around long-term care, life insurance, those types of things, is that expensive for someone in their 70s?
Absolutely.
It is very expensive, right? And we've also got an estate tax planning problem, don't we? Because he's over $15 million in assets. So we got a lot of issues going around with this. And the main one is taking care of his wife. He said, I've done everything for my kids, and so very charitable, wants to be able to give a lot of it away, but I really want to make sure that she's taken care of if something happens to me. So we started putting the numbers together, start looking at things and figuring it out. And what we ended up doing was we ended up creating a plan that created tax savings. And that tax savings was the very thing that funded every single thing he needed to mitigate all of his risks.
His long-term care, his life insurance,
everything to take care of his wife. Everything. Isn't that awesome?
That is awesome.
It's very awesome. So sometimes it's not about just the fact that you want to lower your tax bill, but use it. You like we mentioned before the end of the show is, you go spend that money, it's gone. And that's where he was at. He's calling a CPA at the end of every year. What do I need to do? Well, you need to go buy something. You need to do this. Because here he is. He's over 70. There's not a whole heck of a lot that he could do, right? But at the same time, he's very fearful for his wife, and he's squeezed tight. Like I said, he's got all this leverage. So he didn't have a lot of extra free cash flow, so to speak, to be able to do anything. So this was a way to be able to have his cake and eat it too.
Create the cash flow with tax savings.
That's exactly right. So, there's so much to this that, yes, we do a lot of tax planning, but, what we do is, in reality, is we look at all those holes. That's what we're built to do as a life planning firm, right? Is figure out what's most important to you, what's the most important to your family, and build a plan that fits that need. And for some people, it may be worth paying taxes now to not have a tax burden later.
Right.
And for some people, it's just the opposite, right? And the truth be told is you may not have a severe gap like this gentleman does in your planning, but, I'm going to go back to that question that we briefly touched on before the end of the show. If you Google, just Google search this sentence, biggest retirement fear, or this phrase, biggest retirement fear, what do you think is going to pop up?
Having enough money to survive.
Exactly. Running out of money. And this is common. Didn't we spend a whole month at the beginning of the year about retirement longevity? And I mean, that's how serious it is. You know how much interaction we got from our listeners during that time and from our own clients coming back to us and say, I want to review my longevity assessment. I need to look at this because it is extremely, extremely crucial. And especially when people are seeing their parents live to age 90, 95, and they're thinking, I don't think I have enough money to retire on. Okay. Well, what if Uncle Sam could do that for you. Okay, I want you to think about it. If you were able to save $10,000 this year in taxes, if you invested that money and it grew at 8% for the next 10 years, it'd be worth over $45,000 by the end of that period of time. 10 grand.
Right.
Okay. In the same instance, let's take that business owner that was paying over double what he was taking home. $100,000 saved could be worth over 450 grand. Think about that.
That's huge. That's huge numbers.
Powerful. That's extremely powerful. I don't know anybody that would say no to 45 grand, much less 450 grand in taxes or in tax savings, right? That could create retirement savings for you, or could put the stopgap in the plan where you need it. So with that, tweet us at KFS Life Planning. Is tax planning a priority for you right now? Yes or no? We know it's August, but I want you to tell your inner Scarlett O'Hara goodbye, okay? And we're going to start doing a little planning today to save big for tomorrow. My name is Angela Robinson with Kennedy Financial Services. God bless and have a great week.
Thank you for joining us for Life Planning 101, brought to you by Kennedy Financial Services of Eastland. Tune in every Monday morning at 8:30 on KATX and again on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock on KATX and KWBY for more Life Planning 101.
Advisory services offered through Smart Money Group, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Securities offered through Calton & Associates Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Kennedy Financial Services Incorporated is an independent of Calton & Associates Incorporated and Smart Money Group, LLC.